This online module was created on the traditional country of the Wadawurrung people. We acknowledge them as traditional owners and pay our respect to their elders, past, present and emerging. The training is part of a series of free videos provided by the Surf Coast Shire to assist community-run groups, clubs and incorporated associations. The series covers the topics of fundraising and grants, attracting members and helpers, strategic planning and succession, and financial management. This one, event planning, may help. We hope it does. Here's the aim of this session. The resources mentioned in the session are listed on the web page where you found this module. Feel free to download and use them. Here's what we'll cover. For those of you who have watched the other topics, you'll see how we're building on that information. But it doesn't matter if you missed them. We'll recap briefly where needed. Some of you may already have experienced planning events. I'll give you a range of information that can help, from the basic to the more complex. Not all of it will be relevant to all events. It depends on the size and type of event, okay? But you can cherry pick what you need from this. We'll have a look at why, what, and when. You'll have your own why. It could be for any of these reasons. It could be for something entirely different. What kind of event? Use your imagination. What can your group do for the most benefit with the least stress? Is it an event based on food or produce, activity, participation, music, playing or listening, sport, competition, craft, selling, marketing? Remember the skills audit? If not, have a look at attracting members and helpers. Essentially, a skills audit is a snapshot of what skills you need in your group, then looking for people to match them. Skills first. What are we good at? What strengths can we use? Okay, you've got the what sorted. Think about timing. Do seasons matter? Indoors or outdoors? Daytime, nighttime? Would the Torquay nightjar market be the same if it ran in winter? And would it work as a day jar market? Are holidays and weekends good or bad for you? Do other events and their timing matter? Are you competing for people, or will collaboration create a bigger crowd? And could your event be part of a series? Just think of the summer ocean swims along our coast. The Rock to Ramp runs from Point Road Night. The Pier to Pub is at Lawn. The Danger 1000 is at Torquay. And all of them are in late December, early January. They're part of a bigger picture. Sometimes you can fluke it with the timing, but it's probably better to explore possibilities in advance. Now we'll look at who, where, and how. So who's the event for? Will they attend? And how do you know? Maybe a survey would help. You can use SurveyMonkey or a clipboard or both. And who's going to organise your event? One or two people? A subcommittee? Do you have enough people in your group to go it alone? And if not, are there local experts willing to assist, whether that's paid or unpaid? Are there other groups you might work with? And who else needs to know about what you're thinking? And where? Will it be indoors or outdoors? What are the pros and cons of each approach? Will it be on private land or public land? Do you have to get the landowner's permission? And how long will that take? Do you even need permission? You might be in your own hall, for example, or already have an agreement that allows for events. How do you get approval? And how do you plan the event? This is where the thinking starts to settle and becomes work. So all of those questions ought to be part of your thinking, but they will solidify into some form of work. For some events, you'll need a number of plans to gain a permit for your event. And if you don't need a permit, some of these plans will still help to run smoothly. So you'll need plans. Here are a few to think about. An event plan, a site plan, a risk management plan, a waste management plan, maybe even an environmental management plan, emergency management plan, a bump in, bump out schedule, security, contact lists, and so on. In event planning, it's all about documenting your intended actions. And it could possibly feel like this pile of paperwork. But don't panic. I'm going to show you lots of plans. You may only need some of them, okay? Also, there are great resources available. You don't need to invent all this stuff. The resources are on the page where you found this video. And remember, there are so many paths up the mountain, nobody knows all the ways. Here's a pop quiz. Where did that come from? Did you know? Little River Band. So many paths, from the album Sleeper Catcher, 1978. And it goes on to say, and the view from the top is still the same. So it really helps to have an event plan. It helps to distill all of your good ideas into a schedule. Others can read that plan and understand what's happening and when, even where it will happen. If you also have a site plan, so here's an idea, Google Maps. For this slide, I just copied and pasted. No copyright, no fancy computer programs. And this can help with set out. You can use pens and pencils and photocopy it. Or you can mark it up electronically if you have the skills. It helps create clarity, avoids clashes between food vendors, attractions, stage, marquees, or anything else. This picture is Elephant Walk in Torquay. The Cowrie market is held there. If you've been to it, you'll know they have two music tents which act as stages, one at either end. with lots of stalls separating them. They also have a cluster of food vans and a sprinkling of other food treats throughout. They've clearly thought about the layout, and they've probably tweaked it over the years. Have you seen one of these before? On the left-hand side is likelihood, from high down to negligible. Along the bottom is consequence, from negligible to catastrophic. If you create a list of your risks, you can rank them. For example, if you're having an event in summer, is it likely to rain on your event? Maybe that's a low to moderate likelihood. So we're now into the lower end on the left-hand side. But what would be the result of rain on electrical equipment exposed to the elements? Oh, I'm punting that's a major or catastrophic consequence of electrical equipment getting wet. So the score would be along the right-hand end of that consequence part of the matrix. So maybe the score for a major or catastrophic consequence on a low to moderate likelihood would score somewhere in those boxes around 8 to 15. So you need to fix that risk. How do you fix that or manage the risk? Well, maybe you can make sure that the sound desk and speakers for your musicians are under a marquee. The likelihood of rain is still unchanged, but you've just put in place something to mitigate that risk. You've put a roof over it. So the consequence is reduced to maybe low or moderate. It becomes then, when you line up the low to moderate on both the consequences and the likelihood, of maybe a 4 to a 6, maybe an 8. It looks much more manageable now, doesn't it? And anyway, the sound crew would probably manage it even further and unplug the sound gear if the weather looks bad enough, because they don't want to risk their gear either. What are your other risks? Well, you can brainstorm with your group when you're planning. If you understand this risk matrix of likelihood and consequence, all anyone asks is that you manage the risks down. Emergency management, I mean, really, what could possibly go wrong? And this is your what if planning. What if there's an electrical storm or other adverse weather? A heat wave, a bushfire, flooding rains, a power outage, carnival rides collapse, or you need the site evacuated. But if you're getting concerned about all this gloom and doom, please don't be. You can't foresee everything, but you should plan for what's possible. If you've prepared and planned, you'll know what to do, even if it seems unlikely. Because she'll be right doesn't cut it anymore. Ensure everybody will know who's in charge of what. Having specialist supervisors means you distribute the workload. That means that there is less work for any one person to do and they're more accessible. And here's a bit of an idea about things like put down who they are and put a phone number. Most people carry a phone number, a mobile with them. So if you've got a safety or a food vendor issue, for example, up there in responsibility, the food vendors and the stall holders are Josie's responsibility. And there's her phone number. Also, It helps to list who's coming along and who you've got contracted. So if you've got a portable toilet issue, you know the company is Dunny Roos and Sam Flush has a phone number that you can ask about. The point of all of this is, if you've given people who have some responsibility the list of who to contact, it becomes much easier to manage on the off chance something happens. It's also just good management because everybody involved has a bit of a clearer idea about who's doing what. Add that to your event plan. We now know who's doing what at what time. Add that to your site plan and we now know where it's going to happen. So you can see all of these things build on each other. And depending on the size of your event and whether or not you need approvals, there are a range of other plans that may be requested. Just remember, small events often mean smaller plans, but if you're planning something bigger, you may also be asked for accessibility plans. So can everybody of a range of abilities get in or out of your event? Communications plans, crowd management plans, environmental management, evacuation, first aid and medical plans, food safety, noise impact statements, public safety, general safety, security, traffic management, and waste management. And if you hold a raffle or one of those Wheel of Fortune stalls, you'll probably need a permit. The VCGLR, that's the Victorian Commission for Gambling and Liquor Regulation. They're the body that give the permits out and outline the conditions under which you can operate. You might need a liquor license too. You will if you're selling alcohol and you're not in a venue with a liquor license already. And even then, you may need one if their liquor license doesn't cover your event times, because a liquor license will have times when liquor can be served. If you're outside of that, you'll need another one. And Pope? Well, no, not that guy. A Pope is a place of public entertainment, and you need a permit for it, depending on what your event will have and how big it is. If you've got a marquee or a stage, you may well need a permit to run the event, and councils issue Pope permits. You may also need a building permit depending on the marquee size and the size of the stage and its complexity and so on. Again, check the resources available on the page where you found this video. Do you know that other events? Do you know who runs them? So maybe you could ring them and ask to pick their brains. You could learn from their experience, take time, read event planning guides, ours or other councils too. The point of the planning is to ensure a smooth, well-run event. If something goes weird, you'll have it covered and get things back on track more easily. Also, remember, the first set of event plans that you do might honestly feel like hard work. Don't do them alone. Draft them, refine them, review, and improve them with others in your group, and then save them. If you want to run any later events, you'll have a set of your own already, pre-prepared, and you'll just need to adjust them. If you save them, you'll be so glad you did. Trust me. Often groups have peak bodies with resources and advice. As mentioned, you may know another group that seems to run events well. You should ask them how they do it. Council also has a staff member to support volunteering across the Shire, and there's the contact details. We hope this helps. There's a lot to take in and there's a lot of work to do, but as mentioned, doing it once means that you've got a set of plans if you need them further, or you've already started if you need to add more plans later. Thanks for your time.